एंड सो इट्स अ गुड टाइम टू ट्राई एंड टेक स्टॉक ऑफ इस साल में क्या हुआ है मार्केट्स में, करेंसीज में, मेटल्स में। एक्शन पैक्ड सा ईयर रहा है ये। सो गुड टाइम टू टेक स्टॉक एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली ऑल्सो डिस्कस कि आउटलुक में हम क्या एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं। तो आज का जो सेशन है वो उसके बारे में है। एज ऑलवेज हम सेशन हिंदी और इंग्लिश में करेंगे। आपको कोई भी थॉट, कोई भी डाउट है, आपको अपने थॉट शेयर करने हैं, प्लीज राइट इन टू अस इन द कमेंट्स नोट एंड आई एम वेरी वेरी हैप्पी टू डिस्कस इट विद एवरीबडी। एज ऑलवेज स्टैंडर्ड डिस्क्लेमर कि सारी जो बातें हैं दीज आर ऑल फॉर द पर्पसेस ऑफ एजुकेशन। देयर इज नो रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ एनी काइंड हियर, राइट? तो आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन में हम आपको हेल्प कर पाए, दैट इज व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू। So, without any further ado, let's get started. Right. So, the first thing, 2025 में मार्केट्स कैसे रहे हैं? तो अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये जो रेड लाइन है, दिस रेड लाइन इज इंडिया। क्लियरली नॉट वन ऑफ आवर बेस्ट ईयर्स। आई थिंक वी कम सम थर्ड और फोर्थ इन द ईयर इन टर्म्स ऑफ द रिटर्न्स दैट आर जनरेटेड। एक सिंपल सा डिस्क्लेमर यहाँ पे ये है कि ये परफॉर्मेंस जो है ये 22nd 25th December तक है। तो उसके बाद भी a few trading sessions have obviously happened, but about 11% return the market has given in the calendar year 2025. That is lower than the 20% Singapore has done. China के लिए not that great a year, but overall not our best year also. Japan has had a very good year and we'll talk a little bit more about that. उसके बारे में भी हम बात करेंगे। Yeah, I'm getting comments saying please talk only in English. So Venkat, I'll try to talk more in English, but the audience that we have, some of them are more comfortable in Hindi as well. So I will try to maintain a balance between English and Hindi. But if there is something that you don't specifically understand and want me to repeat, very happy to do that. For now, I'm just saying that up to 22nd of December, India's NSE Nifty 50 has returned about 11%, which is lower than the 20% from Singapore and the almost 30% number from Japan. Japan has had a great year and we'll talk more about it. If you take a slightly longer view, if you see from 2021, आप देखेंगे that India is a much better performing market, right? China again not that great a run, but India has done very very well in terms of equity market performance. So this one year, agar aapko pura, if you remember the year 2025, September 2024 the market started correcting, right? If you can see my chart here also, if you see this line, let me just please point it out. September 2004 here, let me just go to the next slide, 1 second. September 2024, the market started correcting here, and the first half of 2025, I think till about March or April, our markets were not doing well. But since then, they have managed to find good ground. They have managed to gain some ground as well. That is how the year has been for us. In terms of the underlying factors जो है Indian markets के, so if you look at the GDP growth trajectory, the last number that has been pointed out, we've actually done fairly well. On the table, you can see the actual performance versus the forecast. So throughout most of the year, I think we've done much better than what was forecast. In fact, the last number that came and that was printed out was 8.2%. एक सेकेंड यहाँ पे, सॉरी कुछ कमेंट्स है तो मैं जस्ट पढ़ रहा हूँ। और बहुत घट गया, अभी निकालूं। सवाल मिस्टर सिंह साहब है दैट 2025 में ही मार्केट में मैंने पैसे, ही पुट मनी इन द मार्केट 2025 में, और 2025 में घट गया तो अभी निकाल दूं। सर मैं आपको पर्सनली इन्वेस्टमेंट रिकमेंडेशन ऐसे नहीं दे सकता। व्हाट आई कैन टेल यू इज कि मार्केट्स, इक्विटी मार्केट, स्टॉक मार्केट शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए नहीं होते। एक साल में पैसा अप एंड डाउन होना, फ्लक्चुएट होना बहुत कॉमन है, बहुत ही सबके साथ होता है। अगर आप स्टॉक मार्केट्स में आए हैं, आपने एंट्री लिया है, तो कम से कम 3 से 5 साल, मोर देन 5 इयर्स आपको मार्केट्स में स्पेंड करने हैं, राइट। शॉर्ट टर्म में मार्केट्स बहुत रिस्की हो सकते हैं, ओवर द लॉन्ग टर्म ये रिस्क कम होते जाता है। ये भी चीज ऑब्वियसली मैटर करती है कि आपने पैसा किन एसेट क्लासेस में, किन स्टॉक्स में लगाया है। तो बिना ये जाने और डिटेल में बात बताना थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है। बट आई वुड जस्ट से कि अगर आपने मार्केट में एंट्री ली है, मार्केट में बने रहिए, बिकॉज मार्केट एक लॉन्ग टर्म होराइजन के लिए होता है। ये डेट मार्केट जहां पे आपको हर साल इंटरेस्ट मिलता है, ऐसे नहीं है। तो एक साल में पैसे का प्रॉफिट होना, नुकसान होना बहुत कॉमन है। डटे रहिए लंबे समय तक। अगर आपको कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है, तो प्लीज किसी से प्रॉपरली एडवाइस लीजिए। आपकी कमाई हुई मेहनत के पैसे, डोंट जस्ट बेट देम लाइक दैट। थोड़ा प्लीज देख और सोच समझकर आगे बढ़िए। Rajiv has a question. Why are you using the Nifty 50 and not the Nifty 500? Rajiv, I have used the large cap indices across all of them. So I have compared it like for like. मैंने कंपैरिजन में ऐसे कोई चीटिंग नहीं किया है. And why Nifty 50? Because across the board, the benchmark, bigger markets, how they have performed, I just wanted to show that, right? नीचे जब हम वैल्यूएशंस और सब डिस्कस करेंगे, तो वी विल, आप देखेंगे दैट आई हैव कंसिडर्ड द निफ्टी मिड कैप एंड द निफ्टी स्मॉल कैप एज वेल. Okay. Somebody has a question. Sunil is saying hi. Hi, Sunil. Thank you for joining. How to know who am I, what I want from trading, what is the objective of trading, and what is the view? तो सर ये आपने काफी एक फिलोसॉफिकल सा सवाल पूछा है. हाउ डू आई नो व्हाट डू आई वांट फ्रॉम ट्रेडिंग? दिस इज समथिंग यू हैव टू फिगर आउट फॉर योरसेल्फ. आई वुड जस्ट से कि इन्वेस्ट कीजिए विथ अ वेरी सिंपल ऑब्जेक्टिव, कि एक सेकेंड लाइन ऑफ इनकम बने आपके लिए, एंड यू आर एबल टू ग्रो योर वेल्थ. So the objective, please keep it as financial independence, right? With that, I just want to move ahead in my presentation. So like I was saying, underlying जो factors है, and सिंह साहब आपके लिए भी ये help करेगा. इंडिया में underlying जो factors है, they still remain resilient. अगर आप interest rates और inflation देखें, you will see that interest rates and inflation have both come down. ये क्यों मैटर करता है? इफ इंटरेस्ट रेट्स हैव कम डाउन, बोरोइंग मनी बिकम्स इजियर. आप पैसा चीप बोरो कर सकते हैं. आप फ्यूचर ग्रोथ के लिए उस पैसे को बोरो करके आप अपने फ्यूचर ग्रोथ को फाइनेंस कर सकते हैं. From a consumer's point of view, if somebody is deciding to take a home loan, if somebody is deciding to buy a car loan, again borrowing becomes easier. If borrowing is easier, if inflation is lower, then ability to spend also becomes better, right? India remains in a very comfortable position when it comes to the inflation and interest rate dynamics. एक और सवाल आया है, एक सेकंड प्लीज रुक जाइए प्लीज. You have mentioned market में बने रहिए, profit and loss are part of it. Why don't you talk about risk management? Be clear whether or not you're talking about trading or investing. So I'm always talking about investing. That goes without saying. The fact कि portfolio में उतार चढ़ाव होते रहता है is to talk about the risk. Why not talk about risk management? Risk management by itself is a full-fledged subject. आज का जो टॉपिक है वो उसके बारे में नहीं है. इसीलिए फॉर मिस्टर सिंह आई सेड कीप अ लॉन्ग टर्म व्यू, एंड स्टिल इफ यू आर नॉट कॉन्फिडेंट, प्लीज ट्राई एंड गेट द राइट एडवाइजर एंड द राइट एडवाइस, राइट? How to become advisor picks not giving. Okay, somebody also said answer at the end, so एक flow बना रहे. But अगर if I see a relevant question, I will keep picking it up. But yes, I am going to continue with my flow. One thing not discussed, ये आपको न्यूज में नहीं दिखता है, ये लोग इतना बात नहीं करते हैं, इज द लिक्विडिटी इन द मार्केट. देखिए, अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कम हुए हैं, मार्केट में पैसा आ रहा है, राइट, मनी इज कमिंग टू द मार्केट, लिक्विडिटी बढ़ गया है. इन दिस केस द लिक्विडिटी इज मेजर्ड by something called as M2, right? Money 1, money 2, money 3. M1 इज सिंपल कैश एंड चेकिंग अकाउंट, मतलब आपके पास जो पैसा आज आप स्पेंड कर सकते हैं, दिस इज द मोस्ट लिक्विड मेजर। M2 हम क्यों यूज करते हैं? बिकॉज इसमें शॉर्ट टर्म आपकी कोई डिपॉजिट्स हैं, सेविंग डिपॉजिट्स हैं, ये इनको भी यूज करता है। सो इट इज स्लाइटली मोर illiquid बट स्टिल इट इज अ मच मोर होलसम मेजर ऑफ लिक्विडिटी। अगेन लिक्विडिटी मतलब मार्केट में पैसा कितना है, how much is your ability to spend or to invest? Goes without saying, the larger the sorry the higher the liquidity जितनी भी ज्यादा है, मार्केट में एक्शन उतना बना रहेगा। आइडियली ये लिक्विडिटी इन्वेस्टमेंट और कंजम्पशन दोनों को बूस्ट करती है। जैसे जैसे आपने इंटरेस्ट रेट का चार्ट देखा था, जैसे इंटरेस्ट रेट कम हो जाता है, बोरोइंग एबिलिटी बढ़ जाती है, लोग और मार्केट में आते हैं, दे वांट टू बोरो मोर, they want to invest more, and they want to put it in their future growth. Similarly, as interest rates come down, people want to spend more money, and that liquidity starts to flow in the market. जैसे इंटरेस्ट रेट का साइकिल बढ़ते जाता है, एज लिक्विडिटी टैम्प्स डाउन, एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज हो सकता है, राइट? सो ये है लिक्विडिटी का चेंज। आप देखेंगे 2021 से अभी का डेटा है ये, एंड 2025 वी हैव सीन सम ऑफ द हाईएस्ट बूस्ट्स टू लिक्विडिटी, राइट? ओवर द इयर्स 2021-22 ऑफ कोर्स हम कोविड से जूझ रहे थे, देन इन्फ्लेशन स्टार्टेड पिकिंग अप, एंड अभी जो इन्फ्लेशन ईज होना शुरू हुआ है, एंड यू आर सीइंग दैट इम्पैक्ट, दैट लिक्विडिटी इज गेटिंग अ बूस्ट, राइट? पॉजिटिव मोमेंटम इन लिक्विडिटी इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर, इन्हें इसे आपको प्लीज चेक करना चाहिए। ओके, top 10 global news that you should be aware of, what has impacted the market. So Japan is by far the most important one, according to me at least. After like 30 years, right, they have increased their bond prices, their policy rates by to about 0.75%. ये क्यों मैटर करता है? बिकॉज जापानीज रेट्स एक लेवल पे ऑलवेज स्टेडी थे। एवरी कंट्री यूज टू हैव अ कैरी ट्रेड विद जापान, बिकॉज जापान का इंटरेस्ट रेट स्टेडी था। आज जापान ने भी जैसे जैसे अपने इंटरेस्ट रेट्स को बढ़ाना शुरू किया है, what I'm trying to say, what they're trying to do is they are also trying to give their growth a push, right? Japan has been a slow growing economy for a long time. To give that economy a push to try and increase some demand, the government has started to increase interest rates. ये थोड़ा आपको काउंटर इंट्यूटिव लगेगा कि अगर आपको डिमांड बढ़ाना है तो आप इंटरेस्ट रेट्स बढ़ाएंगे क्यों, आप कम करेंगे, राइट? बट जापान में इंटरेस्ट रेट्स काफी सालों तक बहुत लो है। एक ग्रोथ को पुश देने के लिए दे हैव शेकन अप द इकोनॉमी, their borrowing has become better, so global investors are now seeing the Japanese markets with a new perspective. They are seeing a market that is steady, that has political stability, a long history, and can now actually even give them good returns. तो जापान में जैसे जैसे लिक्विडिटी बढ़ेगा, people will start to take note of the market as a serious investment hotspot more than just a trade. Commodities have done very very well. I have a detailed section on commodities. Commodity पे मेरे पास और information है. So for now I will stop there. China had an AI rally. Again here I want to be very clear. Not only in China but even America, जो आप markets में rally देख रहे हैं, you are seeing a rally that is driven by a few AI stocks, right? These are doing very very well, and they are pulling up the entire market. Think Nvidia, think Facebook in America. Overall the rest of the market is still seeing uneven growth, not only in terms of share price appreciation but in terms of underlying earning growth as well. 2026 as we enter and as you start seeing more and more earnings, इस पे प्लीज ध्यान रखिए that are a handful of stocks driving everything, or is it that the whole economy is doing very well, right? केवल एक मार्केट इंडेक्स को ऑल टाइम हाई देख के प्लीज डिसाइड मत कीजिए। Israel and Iran have had challenges throughout the year. That was a big thing. In the middle, oil prices surged a lot, but since then, oil prices have thankfully stabilized for us. Why does it matter? Because inflation in India depends to a certain extent on oil prices. Unfortunately, हम उसे control नहीं करते, and so oil prices coming under control matters as well, right? Across most emerging markets, you saw in my first chart, most of them have posted double-digit gains in 2025. It's been a good year. जो एक flow of money था, right? When Mr. Trump assumed presidency, there was this flow of money back to America on the threat of tariffs, or on the threat of, on the worry of what that person would do as president. Again, I'm not trying to make any political commentary, but ये हुआ था. That money has once again started to come back. The money is once again chasing the returns and the growth. Those signs are back there, and that is why it is positive news. The Fed has implemented 3 rate cuts. Look, we know about this. One more rate cut is possible in Jan Feb. Again, after a long time, the US is once again very steadily on the growth part. अगर आपने US का growth देखा था, so just skipping one line here, you will see somebody is writing, okay. Uh, you will see that US का जो GDP growth है, right? They were able to do 3.3 in Q2. I think Q3 में उनका estimate close to 4.5% का है. The economy is starting to do well. आप जितना भी whatever has happened in 2025, we may think of delinking with America. जो भी आप सोचो, America still is one of the biggest consumption markets. American markets are the most liquid, and they do drive major global sentiment, right? So an American market that is doing well works well for almost everybody. Finally, US tech sector, we all know that Nvidia has had a fantastic year. Again, just reminding everybody, please याद रखिए कि केवल 3-4 स्टॉक से रैली ना हो. Everyone should be doing well. Otherwise, that rally, the sentiment in the market is not uniform, and that sentiment can collapse at any time. इंडिया में क्या हुआ है? तो एज यू गाइज हैव सीन, इंडिया में इंटरेस्ट रेट्स भी कम होते गए हैं. वी हैव डिस्कस दिस, सो आई विल नॉट टॉक मोर. न्यूज अगर आप पढ़ते हैं तो FIIs are exiting Indian markets. That has been the biggest info news. But if you see FII investment into the debt markets of India, FY25 or the year of 2025 has been a great year for India, right? Indian debt markets have seen good inflows from foreign participants. एक line skip करके RBI has very early in the year, RBI reduced the ticket size of investing for you and me in the debt market to as little as 10,000 rupees. Why does that matter? Most places, most markets, debt markets are very big. Indian debt markets relatively very small. आप कंपनीज के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से सोचिए, अगर आपका डेट मार्केट लिक्विड है, अगर आपका डेट मार्केट एक्टिव है, then in that case it is easy for a company to borrow money. Raising capital becomes easier. So a properly functioning debt market is required. Now the government has made sure that you and I can also participate in the debt market. अगर आपको आपका portfolio diversify करना है, debt markets have become a much more available point of view, right? Across a few things, foreign ownership has been increased in multiple sectors. Recently insurance में वापस वो जो FDI है उसको increase करने की बात हुई है. They are mostly going to go through with it. While this is great, we want to see foreign players come in, but the great thing is local guys, domestic guys are also stepping up and making a meaningful mark. Somebody's एक second सवाल है, how to become a speculator who want to maximize profit. Sir, I am not a trader as such, So speculation is not something I can talk a lot about. I would just like to say that as per SEBI statistics, 9 out of 10 traders don't seem to really be making money. So I would personally say focus on the long term and become an investor. But जैसे ये सेशन इन्वेस्टिंग पे है, ऐसे ही काफी सारे सेशंस ट्रेडिंग पे भी होते हैं. Please do take a look at them and we will guide you about how to take care of risk while also trying to maximize your return. Income tax and GST reforms happened. This we all know. FIIs May, the year started with a lot of selling. That is all people were talking about. But then, since then, FIIs have also become steady. The threat of Trump tariffs continues. I had thought in March, April कि अब ये थोड़ा बहुत चलेगा. It will get over. Again, just a month or so back, he had decided to said that India could pay tariffs on rice. The point is, some drama is always going to happen. 2026 maybe from America, expect some amount of volatility to continue. As an investor, our job is very simple. अगर आपका बिलीफ है कि ये जो न्यूज है ये इंडिया की फंडामेंटल स्टोरी को चेंज नहीं करता, उसको इम्पैक्ट नहीं करता, then in that case please stay invested, right? Use the volatility to try and level up in the market if you believe that the long term story is steady. And last but definitely the most important and latest one is the rupees slide. There is an argument you can make कि exports में अच्छा होगा but imports are becoming expensive. You can say कि this is going to help improve domestic production, but ideally you don't want things like this to happen. The rupee, just so all of you know, in 2025 has depreciated more than 5%. आप अगर लोअर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स ले लेंगे, अमेरिकन वॉलेटिलिटी ले लेंगे, you can understand why the rupee depreciated, but the hope in the next year is that the rupee finds a stable level. Ideally, the rupee depreciates about 2 to 3% every year. So 5% is a very high number. Some amount of stability is definitely required. So somebody had asked a question, what is my view on gold and silver? So let's talk about commodities, right? Gold has had a fantastic year. Goes without saying, it is up some 65, 70% in the year of 2025. A very interesting fact, ये just a small tidbit. अगर आप collective value of all gold in Indian households देखेंगे, it is about $4.7 trillion. India's GDP is about 4.2, right? So the gold mothers and housewives and old families and जो आपके grandparents ने आपको बोल के रखा था, and what India has invested has actually translated into some serious wealth for us. Please understand, while the GDP thing is great, the value of gold in your hand is true wealth, right? एक financial freedom की तरफ ये आपको help करता है. The asset has had a phenomenal year. We'll talk about the reasons, please don't worry. Silver has had an equally great year. I think it's about some 130, 140% up. अगर आप majority commodities देखेंगे, I think palladium is up some 100, 150%. Copper has done very well. 2025 has been the year of commodities. What are some of the main reasons? After the war started, the two wars started with Mr. Trump coming in and trying to shake things up. The biggest reason commodities have become big and have risen so much is because central banks went on a commodity buying spree. US डॉलर पे एक ट्रस्ट कम हो गया था, so central banks went out, including the RBI, and they bought up a lot of gold and silver with the hope that if the dollar takes a hit, there is at least a gold to anchor your value. This has been by far one of the biggest drivers of commodity prices, right? Dollar weakness and interest rate low. डॉलर वीकनेस अगेन मींस कि थोड़ा बहुत वॉलेटिलिटी है डॉलर प्राइस में, वॉलेटिलिटी है मतलब रिस्क है, और जैसे ही रिस्क आता है पीपल स्टार्ट टू मूव टुवर्ड्स बुलियन एज इन गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर। लोअर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स एक बहुत लॉजिकल थिंग है, थिंक अबाउट इट लाइक दिस, इफ द इंटरेस्ट रेट इज लो, अगर मुझे बॉन्ड या एफडी से उतना पैसा नहीं मिल रहा, I may just not consider investing there, right? I may say, why not put my money in gold? So, lower interest rates may opportunity cost of the other thing is not that great. You would consider putting your money in gold. Geopolitical tensions we have discussed. ETF flows, प्लीज रीड अप ऑन दिस, इस पे आप चेक कीजिए। गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर ETF, स्पेसिफिकली सिल्वर ETFs have seen record inflows, right? Again, I understand जो ऊपर reasons हैं, that is what has driven this ETF flow, but ये ETF flows में जो return बना है, जो money that has come into this, in fact a lot of silver ETFs, if I remember right, actually had also had to stop accepting money. Because of this, again, you are seeing this huge surge in prices. For silver, particularly, there is a huge demand supply gap, right? Silver's usage in electric vehicles, data centers, semiconductors has grown phenomenally. Not that we don't have enough silver, but mining it and sending it to the right place becomes a challenge. And because of which you are seeing a demand mismatch in gold, in silver particularly, which is also driving silver prices, right? As an outlook, I think prices have increased a lot. From here, for them to grow that higher is slightly tricky, slightly challenging. This is my personal view here. I believe that for some time, आपको एक time correction दिखेगा. Price correction का I don't have an idea. To be very clear, price correction means a fall in the price. Time correction means the price goes sideways. It doesn't go up, doesn't go down. It just goes sideways. तो एक टाइम करेक्शन का पॉसिबिलिटी है. A very simple logic, they've had a fantastic 24-25, some amount of breathing space can come through in 2026. INR, like I said, not our best year. It went to 91 before coming back to 89 levels. Again, some of the reasons we have already discussed this, right? As your uh, trade uncertainty has started to become a big thing. The money that the foreign portfolio investors took out of Indian markets also weighed on us. Overall, that uncertainty is what has hurt India quite a bit. ग्लोबल एक जो रिस्क ऑफ सेंटिमेंट होता है, तब सब वापस पैसा निकाल के या तो डॉलर में या तो बुलियन में, in 2025 they've put money in bullion. That is basically what has happened. The rupee in this year, in the next few months, I believe is going to be an important focus point, because इस लेवल का depreciation is not sustainable. India will need to find a level. The great thing is that our foreign reserves are healthy, our foreign reserves are strong, and the RBI is very well placed to defend the INR, right? By the RBI's metric also, जो INR का over valuation था has come down quite a bit. So you should see some amount of defense of the dollar, of the rupee, in the upcoming months. That is at least my view. Somebody is asking how to short 1,000 to 5,000 quantity. Again, sir, this is not something I know or specialize in. I think every Monday or something we do sessions that are around trading. I would request you to please attend those sessions and try to get some more idea there. Okay. Sorry, I just lost my comments. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Sorry. हाउ डू वैल्यूएशन स्टैक अप, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सबसे पहले एक ग्लोबल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू लेते हैं, एक ग्लोबल नजारा लेते हैं. सो ग्लोबली इंडिया ऑन अ ट्रेलिंग पीई, आई वांट टू जस्ट रिमाइंड एवरीबडी, देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ प्राइस टू अर्निंग्स रेशियो. एक होता है ट्रेलिंग पीई. इसमें क्या होता है, आप प्राइस आज का लेते हैं, लेकिन आप अर्निंग्स पीछे 12 मंथ्स का लेते हैं. ओके, पास्ट 12 मंथ्स का आप लेते हैं. The great thing here is the earnings are published numbers. So you are not guessing or guesstimating anything. The second type of price to earnings is a forward price to earnings number. फॉरवर्ड में क्या होता है, इफ यू हैव अ व्यू, इफ यू हैव अ आइडिया कि कितना अर्निंग्स ग्रो हो सकता है, तो आप वो फ्यूचर अर्निंग्स लेते हैं. द प्राइस रिमेन्स द सेम, द ईपीएस नंबर इज नाउ अ फ्यूचर नंबर, दैट इज अ फॉरवर्ड पीई नंबर. द प्रॉब्लम विद अ फॉरवर्ड पीई, वहां पे एक एस्टिमेशन लगता है. हावेवर अ फॉरवर्ड पीई, बिकॉज आप इन्वेस्ट ऑलवेज फ्यूचर के लिए करते हैं, फॉरवर्ड पीई में आपके फ्यूचर के एक्सपेक्टेशंस बिल्ट इन होते हैं, ट्रेलिंग में वो नहीं होता. टू दैट एक्सटेंट इट इज अ प्रॉब्लम, बट since we are not allowed to give as a guidance of sorts, I and getting consistent forward PE is challenging. For now I have used trailing PE to give you a sense of where we stand. Basically, right now, Indian markets are somewhere in the, if you see the table, the Nifty 50 is right at the bottom. Compared to the US, we are the second highest or second most expensive sort of a market. The good thing is earnings growth are expected to be in double digits. Earnings growth are expected to be strong. If earnings are able to, if you are able to maintain an earnings strategy, earnings are able to sustain it, growth can valuations can become more attractive, right? Looking at a long historical data, आप देखेंगे यहाँ पे दैट निफ्टी 50 है और निफ्टी स्मॉल कैप है. निफ्टी मिड कैप नोइंगली यहाँ पे मैंने यूज नहीं किया है, बिकॉज इन समवेयर अराउंड मार्च 24 निफ्टी का जो निफ्टी मिड कैप का जो अर्निंग्स का बेस था, ईपीएस का नंबर था, दैट गॉट रिवाइज्ड. And because it got revised, the whole number now looks a little weird. So that number is not reasonable. But by and large, the valuations of large cap companies as well as small and mid cap companies remain at a consistent level. Indian markets being overvalued is something that people have been discussing for some time now. Always remember, market overvaluation should be judged with earnings growth, right? If earnings growth are healthy, if you are able to deliver a 15-20% earnings growth, some amount of overvaluation can maybe be justified. But if the earnings growth starts to drop, if the earnings growth slows down, then this valuation starts to become very painful and some amount of correction can be seen. Just to provide context, price to book ratio भी जो है gives a similar sort of a picture. It has increased quite a bit and is now trying to find some base, right? One thing that struck me a little bit that I thought interesting, Nifty mid cap and small cap अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये dividend yield है. Dividend yield for these companies sorry, dividend yield for these companies has been reducing consistently for some time now, right? At this point, you want to go and investigate that have these companies started lowering their dividends, where is the money going, or has the share price actually started to rise up quite a bit, right? So this is something that is worth checking because it will determine your fundamental view of these companies. Moving on, things to finally look out for. So guys, these are my last two slides. Agar abhi bhi koi sawal I have not answered, if some of you held back on asking questions, please do ask it now. How to use position sizing strategy is a question. Sir, position sizing strategy mein, I again, this is not something I specialize in, but very simple. In position sizing is आपको उतना position लेना है जितना आप hit survive कर सको, right? If you've taken 1,000 rupee position and your stop loss says that आप 200 रुपए का stop loss ले सकते हैं, so we'll go to 800 rupees. If you are able to tolerate that kind of risk, then take positions accordingly. अगर आपने एक ही चीज में पोजीशन बड़ा ले लिया, if it becomes 10, 15, 20% of your portfolio and there is a huge hit, your call does not work, you can see a huge hit on your capital, not on your gain, on your capital. तो पोजीशन साइज, अगर आप नॉविस इन्वेस्टर हैं, अगर आपको नहीं आता, प्लीज मेक श्योर आप 2 to 5% ऑफ योर पोर्टफोलियो से ज्यादा उसको पोजीशन साइज ना करें. इट कैन बिकम वेरी पेनफुल. देखिए, एक एक बहुत फेमस सेइंग है, इट्स नॉट अबाउट हाउ हार्ड यू गेट हिट, but it's about how many times you can stand up, right? My point is, if you've taken a huge position, you've taken a hit, if you are not able to come back in the market, आप अपना पैसा कभी रिकवर नहीं कर पाएंगे. If you've taken smaller positions, आप लॉस को ऑब्जॉर्ब कर सकते हैं. You can still live and fight another day. Please here, the idea or the logic is, छोटे छोटे पोजीशन है तो आप एवरी डे दो दो तीन तीन पोजीशन ले, या आपका चर्न आप इंक्रीज कर दें, then that is not a good idea, because then you will ideally be paying a lot of money simply in brokerages, and that is not a good idea. Have a view, have a strategy first. Understand आप ये trade, ये investment क्यों कर रहे हैं. Once you have some amount of research and confidence, take a position where the loss is something you can absorb and still live to fight another day. Okay. Things to look out for: global interest rates. If global interest rates continue to remain low and growth is prioritized, that is something that should do well for us. Japan is making a very strong move towards growth. From just simply existing at a certain growth rate, they want to shoot up economic growth, and that is great for them. But from an Indian, think about us as Indian investors. While our DIIs have remained strong, a foreign investor is going to look at a Japanese market and say, hey, that market is relatively cheap, good earnings growth, the government is supporting growth after many years. Maybe I prioritize Japan over India, right? The markets are fundamentally very different. But if I am somebody sitting abroad and I have to decide where to allocate money, a developing country with, a developed economy with a recent thrust for growth, supportive government is something that can become a strong motivator for me, right? Commodity and bullion prices are important to track. Oil prices have thankfully been stable and in fact been very benign this year. जो कुछ देर के लिए थोड़ा प्राइस शूट अप हो गया था, matters a lot to us, to India specifically, to lot of the world is also. With the US government, with Mr. Donald Trump pushing oil fracking and conventional energy sources, there is a chance oil prices remain at a certain level because scarcity आने का chance थोड़ा कम है. Uneven global market rally, again saying very, very important. In the last year in the US, in the last, not just last year, last few years in the US, only a few stocks have led the rally. The rest have not done that well or have been average performers. As an investor, have you benefited? Yes, you have, and that's a good thing. But for the future, please be on the lookout. Growth, fundamental growth, as well as price growth. If it is spread out nicely, if it is widespread, that's a more sustainable rally. Trade wars, there is no end of it. Recently, again, China decided to put some sanctions on a few US people. They are now coming and talking to us and again trying to stand up against America. This has been going on for all of 2025. And with Mr. Trump again making claims that I am going to tariff the other countries, collect a lot of money and give my people a dividend, so to speak. Again, I am not going to discuss or debate the logic of it. I am not trying to make a political comment, but if that is his point of view, I have a feeling the trade wars will remain, right? We've tried to sign a deal with America multiple times. अगर आप न्यूज़ पढ़ते हैं तो आपको आइडिया है that again and again we have seen headlines that India is very close to the signing a trade deal, but till we sign the dotted line, that volatility is going to remain. In India, particularly, if growth remains good and inflation and interest rates remain benign, you can expect some amount of a positive sentiment in the market. Rupee, we have already discussed. Market valuations and earnings growth. Again, I'm saying Indian markets, a lot of investors will still tell you are overvalued across small, mid, and large caps. There are, however, small pockets of opportunities where the earnings growth is supporting that valuation or where the earnings growth is still positive. Then these are areas you want to try and look at. Tariffs we've discussed. Private capex, very, very important. Throughout the year, the government has kept saying that look, we want private companies to come and start spending. इंडिया में अगर आप कैपेसिटी नॉट जस्ट दिस ईयर बट ओवर द लास्ट 5-7 years, अगर आप कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन देखेंगे तो अबाउट 70 to 80% है. I do not remember any major capex announcements coming out. Recently, I think Vedanta made one, but otherwise, sustained पूरे इंडस्ट्री ने अगर मैसिव ग्रोथ capex कमिट किया है, ऐसा नहीं हुआ. प्राइवेट capex still remains very muted. There is only a certain extent to which the government can keep lifting the weight. Private companies have to come in and try and spend. एंड इफ यू थिंक अबाउट इट, अगर इंडिया को 8% एंड ज्यादा का ग्रोथ रेट मेंटेन करना है, we need to invest in our future, and so capex today for growth tomorrow is very, very important. I have said bank lending here, but I generally mean just lending. I showed you the chart on liquidity. If liquidity remains robust, business activity, consumption will remain robust. And again, lending talks to inflation, talks to growth, and together all of this can form a virtuous cycle that propels us through 2026. If one of these things breaks out, there is a chance 2026 also becomes a slightly volatile year. So guys, this is my presentation. With this, I will stop here. Any doubt, any thought, any questions, please ask in your comments. If there was some question I left unanswered and कुछ बाकी है तो भी मुझे बताइए. Very happy to take it up right now. Okay, so with that guys, thank you so much for attending this session. याद रखिए हम ऐसे ही sessions we keep doing them regularly, and if there is some topic you would like for us to take up, we are very, very happy to do that. Please do write in or drop a comment and we will try and cover your topic as well. For now, thank you so much. I hope you had a great 2025. Have a very good year of end festivities tomorrow and day after, and see you guys in 2026. Thank you very much and have a great day.